Yet again, Norrie Hunter and Caledon Radio are asking for more money to be given to them. But before anyone does that, what has happened to the previous £15,000 given to him by listeners over the last 3 years? Why has Norrie Hunter and Caledon Radio never accounted for how any of that money has been spent? How is the 5k that he's asking for yet again going to be spent? These questions need to be answered before anybody should consider giving him any more money. Back in July of 2021, he asked for £3,000, but he only got £2,349. He said it was to keep his running costs paid and he would buy equipment for outside broadcasts. As far as I'm aware, Caledon Radio have never done an outside broadcast. So where did that money go? Now, at the end of October 2022, just a little over 2 years ago, he asked for £3,000 again, and he got £3,000 and 60. And that was to keep people informed in Scottish politics and to promote the best in new Scottish music. Now, less than 8 months later, in June of 2023, Norrie Hunter was asking listeners to give him another £4,000 to cover or to fund pro-independence radio station. They gave him £4,446. Now remember, so far, not a penny of any of this money given to him has ever been accounted for. Now, 9 months on from then, in March of 2024, he asked for £5,000 and he got £5,155. Now, that is only, bear in mind, 9 months ago. So where did that money go? So 9 months on from his last crowdfunding attempt, he's now asking for another £5,000, which will take his total to £20,010. But wait, when Norrie started Caledon Radio back in 2020, he got a grant for £7,500, I believe, to start the radio station. So taking his total to an amazing amount of £27,510. And as of today, Norrie Hunter, Caledon Radio, Caledon Media, whatever you want to call it, has never accounted as to how 1 penny of that has been spent. Let's look at what it costs to run an internet radio station if you're trying to do it as cheaply as possible, but still put up a good service. Now, your known costs are going to be your licenses for your radio station, your broadband, website hosting, and your stream hosting. Here are some prices for what it is. Your PRS license is £188 plus VAT. Your PPL license £198 plus VAT. You can say your broadband £30 a month, your web host £7 a month is fine, and stream costs he runs at 128k, so that's giving you a total of £3 a month. Now that gives you a cost of, per year, around about £943.20, say £1,000 a year to run a radio station for your yearly costs, your licenses, your broadband, your website and your host. That's about all you need. Next we have Norrie claiming that the equipment's been damaged by dampness. Well, he stupidly should never have put anything electrical anywhere where it's damp. But normally if it's damp, you just leave it to dry out in a nice warm place and it's fine. So we need confirmation of exactly what's been damaged, how it was damaged, the cost to replace whatever it is he's saying it is damaged, and why can't he use his equipment purchased in 2020? And equally important, if the equipment's damaged, How come he can still produce things like his sports show and other stuff? Yeah, bit of a funny one that. So if the equipment has been damaged, what equipment do you need to broadcast? Well, basically 3 items. You need a mixer, which can cost as little as £50, to one he had, a Rode Caster, which was around about £500 now on Amazon. A microphone, £70 to £90 will give you that. And if he's claiming his laptop's broken, then that's another £300 roughly for a suitable laptop to broadcast with. And that basically is it. Now, let's move on to his listener figures. Now, Norrie has claimed in the past 300 to 1,200 people listening into his shows. On average, Norrie, when he's doing his weekday show, gets between 8 and 20, maybe a wee bit more sometimes, with depending on the guest who's there. His average sports show is 4 to 6. Which again he claims is well supported. Yesterday, or today actually, when I did recording this, he had 3 listeners to his sports show. The maximum number he's ever had, and you can see the stat there, which says listener peak, 38. He's never had more than 38 people on at any one time listening to it. So the average number of listeners to the stream itself, it normally sits at 1, and that's a bot sitting listening. There'd be no listeners whatsoever. Sometimes you'll get the occasional person listening, so 1 to 2, and that's normal for his stream. Now, part of Norrie's I need the £5,000 is that he wants premises in Inverness. He's talking about having premises in Inverness. Ask yourself a simple question. If you've only got a handful of listeners listening to your station, do you need premises? Is premises going to suddenly bring you in hundreds and hundreds of people listening to Caledon radio? I think we all know the answer to that, no. You do not need premises when you're literally broadcasting to, on average, say 10 people, maybe 15 or 20. That's not a premises needed thing. That's just him trying to pretend that Caledon Radio is a bigger radio station than it actually is. Now, we need to address the issue of Norrie misleading information that he gives. He has technical problems since day one. He won't listen to anybody try to offer him proper technical advice. And he claims when his station drops out all the time, it's MI5 or some form of external interference because he's got a big radio station and they don't want him broadcasting. Now, to be honest, that's absolute bollocks. If MI5 were wanting to take Norrie Hunter's Caledon radio out, they wouldn't be doing it at his home or his laptop or whatever. There's other ways of removing it. He does the misleading social posts, again, MI5 or other stuff. He also is a great one for saying that such things as, I've got 300 listeners to shows, or as I say, 1,200 was one of them. I have copies of all the tweets that he's posted with these figures, so I can actually put them up if anyone so wants me to. And yeah, if he's misleading about his shows and he's misleading about MI5 and such likes, then you have to ask the question, what else is he misleading his listeners about? I think the classic one with Norrie was quite recently put a post up asking for more people to listen to his radio station because it would then mean he could get higher quality guests. That kind of is a bit of an insult to all the guests, and some of them have been really good guests that have come on and onto Norrie Hunter's show, because obviously, as far as Norrie's eyes, they're not. They have a high enough quality to suit him. Yeah, I think that's one of the worst social media posts he's ever done. Insulting his listeners and insulting his guests because he wants higher quality guests and they're obviously not up to the quality that he wants. Now, the last question you need to ask is a small internet radio station the right format for what he's trying to do, which is trying to educate? After 4 years of trying and still a handful of listeners, it is not obviously the way to do. I think Norrie failed to do research into internet radio stations and the audience figures they attract. If he had, he would have clearly seen that internet radio stations do not attract large numbers of listeners, regardless of what they're playing or what they're doing. It's much better if he had taken the podcast route, where he could have taken time to interview people, edit it all together. He could have included it in videos. There's plenty of very easy to use podcast software out there, which again, you maybe have to pay £20 a month to use it. It will do all the hosting and everything. Think of the money that you would save compared with having to spend licenses and everything. And given that there's only one bot listening to the stream most of the time when he's not on air, what's the point of spending £500? And in fact, it should actually be a lot more than that, because of the amount of money he's getting in actually increases one of the license fees. What is the point of spending all that money for literally nobody listening to the station? I would suggest to Norrie Hunter that he's never going to be able to take on the BBC, much as he feels that he can and should do. He will never ever achieve that with an internet radio station, he needs to wake up to that fact. He would be much better. I genuinely think, and I would support it, that he should look at doing podcasts, video podcasts, bring the guests in, have chats with them, have a good discussion, put up lots of information. You see, doing a live show, you've got to kind of think on your feet. Whereas if you're doing a podcast, you can have all the information before you start and bring that in. And also you can edit it together and put more information in and slides and such likes. It's a much better way of doing it. And I think people would be more receptive to Caledon radio, dropping the radio bit and becoming what he sometimes quotes it as Caledon media, and actually doing online video podcasts. It's a much better way of doing it. And as I say, I would be happy to help him out and point him down the routes. He won't accept my offers of help. He never does. But I'd be happy to show him how that should be done. Internet radio, no. There's a number of independent internet radio stations out there, and I think they'll all tell you that they're not attracting the listener numbers that really would make any difference. I mean, a classic case is Norrie kept asking for the First Minister to come on Caledon radio with 12 listeners, 15 listeners. The First Minister is not going to be in the slightest bit interested in coming on to a tiny, tiny radio station as that. It's time you smelt the coffee, woke up to it, and stopped pretending that he's some sort of big radio station. He's not. He's like everyone else doing an internet radio station. Small, handful of listeners, maybe regular listeners, but a handful of listeners. Podcasts are the way to do it, and will he wake up to it? I doubt it. Thank you for listening.